Synopsis. The moment the train was about to run over me, I saw my biological mother rushing forward. The train platform shook. Some people panicked, some screamed, and others covered their eyes, not daring to look. Only she did not. She charged straight to my side and dropped to her knees. I wanted to call out, "Mum, save me." But immediately after, I saw her hand reach into my pocket. She reached for my salary card, my gold ring, and the stack of 1,000 yuan in allowance I had just received from the factory. Then, she pulled everything out and stuffed it all into her own pockets. I lay on the ground, my two legs completely numb, and saw Zi Jiancheng standing not too far away. His arm was wrapped around another woman. Those two looked at me with eyes as cold as if they were looking at a stray dog. I wanted to scream, but my mouth was full of blood. My mother, having stripped me of everything, stood up and looked down at me one last time. I carried that look with me to my next life. She was calculating how much compensation she would get if I died. That was the final image of my previous life. My name is Shen Siyue. The year I died, I was 32 years old. Even the last 1,000 yuan on my person was snatched away by my own biological mother's hands. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on a bed. Above my head was the familiar ceiling beam, covered tightly with old yellowed newspapers. I tried moving my legs a little. They could still move. There was a fresh scar at the base of my thigh, tightly wrapped in bandages, but my legs were still intact. On the bedside table lay a red passbook, Workplace Injury Compensation, 2,800 yuan. Deposited on March 15, 1987. I stared at that date for a long time before the door opened. "Siyue, are you awake, child?" My mother walked in carrying a bowl of chicken soup. A radiant smile on her face. That smile was exactly like that of a compassionate and benevolent bodhisattva. I casually slid the passbook under my pillow. "Mum stewed some chicken soup for you. Drink it quickly while it's hot. With your muscles and bones injured like this, you need proper nourishment." She placed the bowl on the bedside table and naturally sat down on the edge of the bed, her hand already reaching toward the pillow. "Let Mom hold on to that compensation money the factory gave you, lest you spend it recklessly. I worked as an accountant at the welfare factory for 10 years, saving the factory hundreds of thousands of yuan. But I had never been able to keep a single penny of my own money. Up until I died, I only had exactly 1,000 yuan in my pocket, and even that was picked clean by her." I picked up the bowl. My mother smiled, thinking I had obediently listened, and reached out to pull the passbook. But the very next second, I smashed the bowl of soup right into her face. Scalding chicken soup. My mother let out a tragic scream and jumped up, grease splashing all over her face, hair, and clothes. She froze for 2 seconds before regaining her senses and looking at me in sheer disbelief. "Shen Siyue, are you crazy?" I opened my mouth, my voice calm to the point of being cold. "In this life, don't even think about touching a single cent of mine." My mother wiped the soup off her face, her expression instantly changing. "Shen Siyue, think carefully. You are a cripple now. The factory doesn't want you, and men don't want you. Without me, how many days could you possibly survive?" I looked straight into her eyes. In my previous life, I was crushed by this exact sentence for 10 years, from 22 to 32. What I feared most were these words. I feared I was truly useless. I feared I couldn't survive if I left her. So I was obediently handing over my passbook, obediently sitting and flicking the abacus in the welfare factory for 10 long years. And what was the outcome? The outcome was me lying in a pool of blood on the platform, watching her bend down to search my pockets. I let out a laugh and pulled the passbook from under the pillow. This 2,800 in injury compensation was exchanged for my 2 legs. I will manage this money myself. My mother lunged to snatch it. I leaned back to dodge, accidentally aggravating the wound on my thigh. The sharp pain made me wince, but my hand still gripped the passbook tightly. "Give it to me. I am your mother. Your money is my money." Before, that was true. I stuffed the passbook into the deep pocket of my innermost layer of clothing. But starting from today, it's not. The door was suddenly pushed open. My father, Shen Dashan, stood at the threshold, holding a fish he had just bought from the market. What's going on? What's all the racket? My mother instantly flipped her attitude, tears falling on cue. Old Shen, look at your daughter. I kindly stewed soup for her, and she dumped the whole bowl on my face. She even tried to hide the money and refused to give it to me. Shen Dashen's face darkened, glaring at me. Shen Siyue, your mother isn't wrong. Now that your leg is ruined, you need to know how to save the factory's compensation money. Letting your mother hold it for you. What's wrong with that? Do you not even trust your own biological mother? I pulled the blanket around myself, coldly looking at the people in the room. They had eaten me to the bone, drank my last drop of blood, yet still wanted me to bow my head and admit I was an unfilial daughter. I don't trust her. I spat out. Shen Dashen froze. My mother was also stunned. In their memories, Shen Siyue had never dared to say such a thing. I used to be the obedient daughter, the woman who was pushed onto the tracks by Zi Jiancheng, dragging her broken leg home by herself. The tireless ATM for their family. You! My mother pointed at me, her fingertips trembling violently. Fine, Shen Siyue. Your wings have grown hard, haven't they? Just you wait. She turned on her heel and stormed out. The door was slammed shut so hard, the walls shook. Before following her out, Shen Dashen turned his head and gave me one last look, his eyes full of disappointment. The wound on my thigh still throbbed, but my body felt lighter than ever. Outside the window, neighbors murmured, and from afar, the ding-ding of a bicycle bell echoed. The county town in 1987. The streets were filled with the sounds of everyday life. I got out of bed and, leaning against the wall, slowly dragged myself to the window. On the opposite corner, a private grocery store had just opened. People were lining up to buy carbonated soda. I remembered that in my previous life, that area was later zoned for redevelopment, and the shop owner became a 10,000 yuan household overnight. Downstairs, the sound of my mother crowing and complaining to the neighbors rang out. Raising a daughter for over 20 years. Turning her back on me just like that. My heart is cut to pieces. The neighbor chimed in. The youth nowadays truly have no conscience. I stood behind the window and quietly listened to it all. This was only the beginning. My debts would be settled one by one, without missing a single fraction. My mother didn't step into my room for 3 consecutive days. But she wasn't idle either. Every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, she would place food right on time outside my door, knock twice, and walk away. Whenever neighbors came to visit, her eyes would turn red, and her voice would choke up. Siyue still holds grievances in her heart. As a mother, I have to yield to her. The neighbors' gazes toward me gradually changed. What was once pity now carried hints of something else. This was exactly what she wanted. I understood her too well. She would never argue with me directly, but she would make everyone believe that I was unreasonable, a disabled leech causing her family suffering, while she was a patient, enduring mother. Once everyone was on her side, the moment I resisted, I would immediately become the target of public criticism and humiliation. In this life, I wouldn't give her that chance. On the morning of the 3rd day, I walked out of my room on crutches. My mother was washing clothes in the courtyard. Seeing me come out, the washing bat in her hand paused for a beat. Oh, finally willing to show your face. I didn't answer and hobbled straight to the gate. Right at that moment, Sister Sun rode up on her bicycle. Sister Sun was in her 30s and was the director of the neighborhood welfare factory. In my previous life, she hadn't treated me badly, but she couldn't stand my mother coming to the factory to make a scene every few days. Siyue, I was looking for you. Sister Sun parked her bike at the gate, obvious anxiety written on her face. Something big has happened at the factory. My mother's ears immediately perked up. Director Sun, let's talk inside. I invited her into my room and casually closed the door. In the courtyard, my mother let out a cold snort. As soon as Sister Sun sat down, she rattled off without pausing. Last month, the old accountant retired. That new girl, Zhao Liu, hasn't even been here 20 days and she's already made a mess of the books. Next week, the district audit team is coming down to inspect. If the mistakes are exposed, the rice bowls of dozens of disabled workers in the factory will be gone. The welfare factory was established by the neighborhood committee, specifically arranging employment for people with disabilities. There were over 40 people in the factory. Some had mobility issues. Some were deaf or mute. Some had poor vision. I had been in that place for 10 years. No one knew it better than I did. To outsiders, it was just a job. But to them, it was their only lifeline. Sister Sun, you're looking for me because... Siyue, I know you used to do statistics at the textile factory, and know your way around an abacus. She grasped my hands tightly. Can you help me untangle this mess and fix the books? I didn't answer immediately. In my previous life, it was also Sister Sun who came to beg me, which led me to enter the welfare factory. But back then, it was my mother who agreed on my behalf, on the condition that my salary was to be handed directly to her. This time was different. All right, I said. Sister Sun's eyes immediately lit up. But what? Tell me. First, my salary must be issued directly to me, not going through anyone else's hands. Sister Sun paused for a moment, then nodded. No problem. Your money is supposed to be issued directly to you anyway. Second, the factory must provide me with an official employment certificate. I want to separate my household register and become independent. In those days, separating a household register wasn't easy, let alone for an unmarried, disabled woman still living with her parents like me. You want to divide the family? Yes. Sister Sun looked at me for a while and suddenly laughed. Shen Siyue, you've changed. You've really changed. I tapped my crutch on the ground. My leg is broken. I can't let my brain be waterlogged too. Sister Sun slapped her thigh. All right. I agree to both conditions. As long as you clean up that mess of books, I'll take care of your household register. She grabbed her bike and left. I grabbed my crutches and stood up, intending to go to my room to get my abacus. But my mother was already blocking the doorway. You're going to work at the welfare factory? Yes. And you're not giving me your salary? Yes. And you want to divide the family? Yes. My mother's facial muscles twitched. Shen Siyue, do you think just because you're a cripple, I can't discipline you anymore? I looked straight into her eyes. Mum, it's not that I think you can't discipline me. It's that I see you've never truly disciplined me at all. I squeezed past her, hobbling outside on my crutches. My mother stood frozen in the middle of the courtyard for a long time, unmoving. The welfare factory was located at the end of the street, a large tiller-roofed building with an old wooden sign hanging above the door. Sister Sun pushed the door open and walked in. Inside, there were 7 or 8 sewing machines, with a few workers bowing their heads, sewing gloves. Deeper inside was a small room piled high with ledgers and receipts. That girl Xiao Liu did this. Sister Sun pointed at the piles of paper, looking like she had a headache. I don't even know how she records things. Looking at it is like reading a heavenly scripture. The new accountant, Xiao Liu, stood nearby, her eyes red in her early 20s. Director Sun, I really didn't mean to. There were just too many inventory intake and output slips. I got everything confused while writing them down. I sat down at the desk and pulled the piles of ledgers toward me. The first book was the March intake receipts. Fabrics, cotton threads, elastic bands, buttons. New inventory messy receipts thrown together in a pile. Some not even dated. Xiao Liu stood next to me explaining. I just recorded whatever slip I received in order. I didn't say anything, my eyes scanning the numbers. In my previous life, I sat in this factory calculating books for 10 years. Every day for 8 hours I faced these stacks of paper. Later, my mother complained that me walking around was embarrassing, and forced me to bring the books home to calculate. 10 years, over 3,000 days. Those numbers were etched into my bones. As soon as I looked at the first page, the abacus beads in my brain automatically started bouncing. Click-clack, click-clack. The sounds from my past life still echoed in my ears. The books for March have a wrong balance recorded by Xiao Liu. The total inventory cost is 1,237 yuan and 6 mao. She wrote it as 1,042 yuan and 3 mao. I pulled out the receipt for the missing 195 yuan and 3 mao and set it aside. Then in April, it's off by 320 yuan. May, off by 408 yuan and 5 mao. June. I flipped through all the books for the 3 months on the desk, separating them into 5 distinct piles of receipts. Zhao Liu's face grew increasingly pale. Sister Sun leaned in. How is it? From March to May, Zhao Liu underrecorded by 923 yuan and 8 mao. Sister Sun drew in a sharp breath of cold air. From June to August, I picked up another stack of receipts. She over-recorded by 1,567 yuan and 2 mao. Over-recorded? Sister Sun's eyes went wide. Yes. I pointed to several inventory slips. These amounts were paid twice. The supplier hadn't cleared the debt and billed it again. Tears streamed down Zhao Liu's face. I really didn't do it on purpose. Sister Sun's face turned ashen. Right at that moment, the door to the small room was pushed open. The purchasing agent Old Ma walked in. Oh, doing an audit. Old Ma was in his 40s, with a fat, puffy face, having worked as a purchaser at the factory for 5 years. In my previous life, he was a sly old fox who never showed major flaws on the surface. I pulled out an August inventory receipt. Master Ma, this batch of elastic bands on the receipt lists 200 rolls. Unit price 1 yuan 2 mao. Totaling 240 yuan. Old Ma nodded. That's right. Is there a problem? The factory's warehouse log records. I flipped over the intake slip signed by the workers, 120 rolls. The smile on Old Ma's face stiffened. Where did the other 80 rolls go? The small room instantly went dead silent. Sister Sun's gaze stabbed into Old May's face like a knife. Old Ma swallowed hard. Probably the delivery guys shorted us. Shorted 80 rolls, and I didn't notice when I signed for it. I flipped the receipt over. His signature was prominently displayed on it. This too, I also have this. I pulled out another stack of receipts for the cotton thread batch in June. The receipt says 100 catties. Warehouse logged 80 catties. July, another 100 catties. Warehouse logged 60 catties. The 3 receipts were laid out in parallel for the 3 months. The cotton thread alone had evaporated by 80 catties. Calculated at market price, that was almost 400 yuan. Sweat poured down Old Ma's forehead in streams. Sister Sun slowly stood up. Old Ma, her face had turned ice cold. I'll give you a chance to confess on your own. The flesh on Old Ma's face twitched in waves. Then, he suddenly turned and bolted straight for the door. Sister Sun came from the neighborhood committee. What kind of scenes hadn't she witnessed? As soon as Old Ma reached the door, he was blocked by 2 male workers, held down, and handed over to the police station. Sister Sun waved her hand. As he was dragged out, Old Ma turned his head to glare at me. I had seen that look before. The day Zi Jiancheng pushed me onto the tracks, it was that exact same look. Hatred. Hating me for blocking their path. I didn't avoid it, merely staring back at him coldly. Old Ma was hauled away, and Zhao Liu cried until she couldn't catch her breath. Sister Sun turned to look at me, her eyes reddening. Siyue. She grabbed my hand. From today on, you are the official accountant of the welfare factory. Your salary is 45 yuan a month, not a penny less, handed directly to you. Your employment certificate. I'll get it done for you tomorrow. As for separating your household register, if Sun Shuqin can't get it done for you, I'll drop the surname Sun. I nodded. Thank you, Sister Sun. Thank what? You saved this factory. Just then, a commotion arose from outside. A worker ran in. Director Sun. Someone is causing trouble at the gate. I grabbed my crutches and stood up to look out the window. In front of the factory gate, my mother stood with her hands on her hips, accompanied by my father, Shen Siyue, and my younger brother, Shen Siyue. My daughter is disabled. You people can't bully her. The money she makes must be handed over to me to manage. What does a cripple know? She'd be sold off and still help them count the money. Call her out here to go home with me. The workers looked at each other, their eyes wavering. Sister Sun turned to me. Let me go out. I hobbled outside on my crutches. Reaching the factory gate, separated by an iron fence, I looked straight at my mother. Shen Siyue, get out here. My mother yelled as soon as she saw me. Now you come home with me. Don't you dare get involved in this broken-down factory. I stood perfectly still. Mum, don't call me Mom. Do you even know I'm your mother? I know. I stood there leaning on my crutches. The heavy weight pressing on my thigh wound caused a piercing pain, but my spine remained straight. But I will never go home with you again. My mother's face flushed crimson. In the past, you took everything from me. My allowance, my salary, my compensation, everything. From now on, I raised my hand, presenting the accounting certificate Sister Sun had just slipped to me. Every single penny I earn stays in my hands. Shen Siyue, my mother shrieked. I gave birth to you. You owe me for the rest of your life. I looked at her hysterical, unhinged state, slowly turned around and hobbled back inside. Behind me echoed my mother's curses, my father's heavy sighs, Shen Haosheng's cheering shouts, and alongside them, Sister Sun's ironclad voice. Zhang Gilan, I'm warning you. If you keep making a scene at the factory gate, I'm calling the police. I returned to the small room and sat down. In front of me was the pile of unfinished books. I picked up the abacus, my fingers gliding over the wooden beads. Click-clack. Click-clack. The crisp sound rang out, completely overpowering the noise outside. From now on, I would only calculate for my own life. By dusk, Sister Sun pushed the door open and walked in. Your mother went back. I had old Zhang from the police station scare her a bit. I've issued your employment certificate. She placed a piece of paper stamped with a bright red seal on the desk. Tomorrow you'll go with me to the police station to process the household separation. Yes. She stood up and patted my shoulder. From now on, you are Sun Shuqin's person. Whoever dares to bully you will have to step over my dead body. She walked out. I sat alone in the small room. It was getting dark. The county town in 1987 lit up sparsely. I held the employment certificate, admiring it for a long time. Written on it was my name, Shen Siyue, position, accountant, monthly salary, exactly 45 yuan. I neatly folded the paper and stuffed it into the deepest pocket inside my jacket, keeping it together with the passbook holding my 800 yuan compensation, a 45 yuan monthly salary, an employment certificate. This was all the capital I had to restart my life. Early the next morning, Sister Sun arrived. She pedaled a heavy-duty bicycle, a bag of steamed buns hanging from the handlebars. Eat up. Then we'll head to the police station. I took the piping hot bag of buns and took a bite of the fragrant pork and cabbage filling. My mother had never bought meat buns for me. She said it was a waste of good food for a disabled person. I ate 3 in a row. Sister Sun stood watching and laughed. What a good appetite. After eating, I went out with her. My mother was sitting in the courtyard picking vegetables. Seeing Sister Sun, she let out a cold snort, aggressively slapping the vegetable leaves into the basket. I didn't even glance at her. Sister Sun pushed her bike and I hobbled beside her on my crutches. Once out of the alley, she suddenly spoke up. I've seen plenty of people like your mother. She isn't necessarily evil. It's just that she always thinks her things belong to her. And her things still belong to her. In the hearts of people like that, the words other people have never existed. I stubbornly took step after step forward on my crutches. It took me 10 years to understand this logic. Yet Sister Sun pierced right to the core with a single sentence. At the police station's registry office, Uncle Zhang, the registrar, was acquainted with Sister Sun. When I submitted the employment certificate, he glanced at it, then looked at me again. Independent household separation. That's right. Sister Sun pushed me forward. This girl is now the official accountant at my welfare factory. She has a job, an income, totally meets the requirements. Uncle Zhang flipped through the documents, his eyes landing on my legs again. Does your family agree? No, they don't, I replied. Uncle Jan paused. Sister Sun quickly stepped in. Old Jan, as for this girl's situation at home, you can just go ask the neighborhood committee, and you'll know. Her injury compensation money was wiped clean by her own mother. If I hadn't discovered it in time, she wouldn't have been able to keep her future salary either. Uncle Jan frowned, asking no more. He picked up the stamp and brought it down with a thud. Come get the household register in 2 days. Walking out of the police station, the sun was high. Sister Sun patted my shoulder. All right, starting today, Shen Siyue, you are the head of your own household. Head of my own household. Those words struck straight to my heart. Sister Sun, thank you. Thank what? She was already getting on her bike. The neighborhood committee might call you in this afternoon to talk. Prepare yourself. With the committee, a person like your mother won't just let things go quietly. She was right. As soon as I got back to the welfare factory and opened the ledgers, Aunt Kian from the neighborhood committee came looking for me. Aunt Kian was in her 50s, sporting tight curly hair, wearing a red armband on her sleeve. She had worked in this neighborhood for 20 years. Whenever families fought, they sought her to resolve it. Oh, Shen Siyue, your mother came to the neighborhood committee this morning. I put down my abacus. She cried and whined all morning, saying now that your wings are hard, you're abandoning your mother. Said your father was so angry his blood pressure spiked, and your brother smashed things at home. Oh, I blankly replied with just an oh. Is that all? Aunt Kian, what do you think I should do now? Auntie. She spoke softly, rationally speaking. Being filial to your parents is a matter of course. It wasn't easy for your mother to raise you. Yes, it truly wasn't easy. I pushed the abacus aside. Therefore, I planned to meticulously calculate every penny my mother spent raising me, and return it all to her. Aunt Kian's expression instantly changed. What kind of way is that for a girl to speak? I'm telling the truth. I looked straight into her eyes. However much money she spent raising me, I acknowledge it all. Whatever she calculates, I will pay back. But the money she took from me must also be clearly accounted for. Aunt Kian opened her mouth but couldn't utter a single word. Sister Sun walked in from outside, holding a stack of papers. Director Kian, you came right on time. This is the amount of money Shen Siyue's mother has taken from the factory over the past 3 years. The girl's monthly disability allowance was signed off by her mother, totaling 480 yuan. Aunt Kian's face immediately dropped. This is money provided by the committee according to regulations. It must be issued directly to the disabled individual. Sister Sun pulled up a chair and sat down, her tone unhurried. Zhang Gilan collected it on her behalf and pocketed it herself behind our backs. If this matter is reported upwards, it's enough to buy her a nice cup of tea at the station. All right. All right. Aunt Kian hastily waved her hands. Let's resolve this internally. Keeping it internal is fine. Siyue, do you really want to divide the family? Once you do, your mother won't care for you anymore. She has never cared for me before. Only cared about keeping my money. Aunt Kian sighed. Fine, come to the committee office tomorrow morning. Call your parents, and I will stand as a witness. After Aunt Kian left, Sister Sun winked at me. How was that? I couldn't help but laugh. This person named Shen Siyue was my factory director in my past life. And in this life, she became my strongest pillar of support. Sister Sun, how did you know about my mother taking my allowance? Nonsense, she snorted. I'm the factory director. I know exactly how much your mother took from my factory down to the last penny. Before, it was you who endured it and didn't speak up. So even if I wanted to intervene, it wasn't convenient. Now that you've opened your mouth, I'll help you dig up every debt and settle it clearly. The next day, at the neighborhood committee office, my mother, my father, and Shen Siyue were all present. The moment my mother stepped through the door, she started crying. Director Kian, please arbitrate for me. I've raised my daughter for over 20 years, and out of the blue, She demands to divide the family and split the house. Is this something a human being would do? Shen Siyue sat on the side with a dark face, continuously smoking cigarettes. Shen Siyue sat with his legs crossed, glaring at me. Aunt Qian pulled up a chair for me. I sat down, leaning my crutches against the edge of the chair. Zhang Gilan, stop crying. Aunt Qian tapped the table. I called everyone here today to discuss the matter of dividing the family. What's there to divide? My mother slammed the table. She's a cripple. How is she going to live if she moves out? I'm only doing this for her own good. For my own good. I spoke up. The entire office fell silent. I pulled out a small notebook from my pocket and flipped it open. Last March, my disability allowance came in at 15 yuan a month. Mum collected it but only gave me 3 yuan. Last June, the factory issued a summer cooling allowance of 10 yuan per person. Mum collected it and gave me 2 yuan. Last Lunar New Year, the ward provided 30 yuan as a greeting gift for the disabled. Mum collected it and gave me 5 yuan. I looked at the numbers in the notebook. Aunt Qian's brows knitted tightly. My mother frantically defended herself. I was afraid you'd waste it. Mum! This January, my workplace injury compensation, 2,800 yuan, came in. I flipped to the next page. You took the passbook saying you'd hold on to it. But to this day I haven't seen a single penny. I closed the book. Mum, where is the money you're holding for me? My mother's face flushed bright red. Deposited. Deposited in the bank. Which bank? Where is the passbook? You. Let me speak for you. I pulled out another piece of paper from my pocket. This is the document I got from the savings bank yesterday when I went to check. The total funds under Mom's name amount to 4,300 yuan, of which 2,800 yuan was deposited in January. The remainder is exactly my allowance, my salary, and my holiday bonuses over the past 3 years. The entire office was dead silent, save for the ticking of the wall clock. Aunt Qian held the paper, glanced over it, then looked up at my mother. Zhang Gilan, how do you explain this? My mother's lips trembled. Suddenly, she burst into loud sobs. What karma did I create? When I gave birth to her, I almost died on the delivery table. I cleaned her feces and urine single-handedly, raising her to be this big. And now she dares to settle scores with me. She wailed, sounding as if her heart was tearing apart. Shen Siyue crushed his half-smoked cigarette and abruptly stood up. Shen Siyue, have you caused enough trouble? In my previous life, I feared his tone the most. Whenever he opened his mouth, I felt like the fault lay with me. No matter how wrong your mother is, she is still your mother. If she took your money, treat it as repaying the grace of birth and upbringing. Now you're sitting here settling accounts with her. Do you want the whole world to poke the spine of our Shen family? I looked at Shen Siyue, the man I had called father for over 20 years. In my past life, from beginning to end, he had never spoken a single word in my defense. It wasn't because he was evil, but because he believed my mother was right. Women managing the household's money was entirely justified. To him, where the money came from didn't matter. Dad, the grace of Mom's birth and upbringing I acknowledge. So today, in front of Director Qian, I will make it clear. I, Shen Siyue, am moving out to live on my own, leaving empty-handed. I will not take a single item from the house. In addition, I pulled out a stack of cash from my pocket and placed it on the table. And even 200 yuan. That was the money I had just withdrawn from the compensation fund. This is the maintenance fee for raising me for 20 years. It's not much, but right now this is all I have. From now on, I will bring 200 yuan home every year, considering it fulfilling my filial piety. My mother fell silent. She stared fixedly at the stack of money on the table, her eyes lighting up. Shen Siyue froze and Aunt Qian remained silent. I grabbed my crutches and stood up. From today onwards, every penny I earn has no relationship whatsoever with this family anymore. My household register has been separated. If you act like before making decisions for me without permission, collecting my money on my behalf, managing my money. I looked straight into my mother's eyes. Mum, just pretend you never gave birth to this daughter. The office was eerily quiet. Aunt Kian was the first to speak, tapping her fingers lightly on the desk. Jangilan, Shen Dashan. What do you two think? Shen Dashan fell deep in thought, lighting another cigarette. My mother kept her eyes glued to the stack of money, her expression shifting several times. Finally, she reached out, grabbed the stack of money, and stuffed it straight into her pocket. Fine. You said it yourself. 200 yuan every year. She stood up, brushing off her hem. Shen Siyue, these are your own words. Don't come crawling back crying and begging me in the future. I hobbled out. Once I reached the gate of the neighborhood committee, Shen Siyue chased after me. He rubbed his hands together and sneered. Sister, how much of your 2,800 yuan is left now? I looked at him. In my past life, this younger brother took my money to smoke, gamble, and drink. When his debts piled up, he'd run back and force me to pay them. When I said I had no money, he kicked over my wheelchair. I fell to the ground and he stood beside me, looking down with disdain, dropping a line. Serves you right. Who told you not to give me money? None of your business. I squeezed past him and walked straight ahead on my crutches. Shen Siyue stood frozen, then spat a large wad of saliva behind me. A broken cripple still trying to act tough. I didn't turn back. I didn't stop until I had walked out of the committee's alley. Shen Siyue. Someone called out to me from behind. At the end of the alley stood a man wearing a Zhongshan suit. He was in his 40s, wearing glasses, carrying a briefcase. You are? He stepped forward, handing me a business card with black text on a white background. Lu Mingshen, Director of the County Supply and Marketing Cooperative. I heard that in just 3 hours you cleared 3 months of books for the welfare factory, and casually dragged out an embezzling purchasing agent. He pushed the business card closer to me. Recently, our cooperative has been auditing an old debt. He paused for a beat. 5 years and 3 generations of accountants later, we still haven't found a clue. Are you interested? I took the business card. Lu Mingshen. The name exploded in my mind. In my previous life, I had seen him in the newspapers. In 1992, he was the youngest Commerce Bureau chief in the province. In 1995, he was promoted to the provincial capital, controlling the entire cooperative system. Back then, I was still locked in the small room of the welfare factory, flicking the abacus every day until my hands wore out. My mother had scraped clean my last 1,000 yuan, leaving me without even enough money to buy a newspaper. The books at your cooperative. I tucked the business card into my pocket and looked up at him. Are much more complicated than the welfare factories. Lu Mingshen smiled. Scared. Not scared. I hobbled past him. I need more money. Lu Mingshen paused for a second before bursting into loud laughter. All right. Name your price. How much do you need? I stopped and turned my head. Don't discuss it with me. Discuss it with my factory director. I am now part of the welfare factory. If you want to dispatch me, fine. But the remuneration must be clearly contracted between the two parties. Lu Mingshen pushed his glasses up, his gaze carefully evaluating me from head to toe. Shen Siyue, you are more formidable than I thought. I continued walking on my crutches without looking back. The autumn sun poured over the streets of the county town in 1987. Across the street, a newly opened cassette shop was blasting Teresa Teng's voice from a horn speaker. I walked amidst that song, my crutches tapping clack-clack on the cement road. 3 days later, Lu Mingshen called the welfare factory. Sister Sun picked up the phone, put down the receiver, and looked at me with a slightly complex expression. The cooperative made an offer. Borrowing you for 1 month. Paying the factory 200 yuan. You personally will get an extra 30 yuan in allowance each month. Are you going? 200 yuan. In my past life, I worked at the welfare factory for exactly 1 year, and my total salary was only 540 yuan. I'm going. I nodded. Sister Sun opened her drawer and took out a brand new abacus with a black frame and boxwood beads. Take it, it's weighty. A gift to you. I used to use this one all the time when I was an accountant. I took it and flicked a bead. The click-clack sound was crisp, much more agile than the old abacus in the factory. Sister Sun, don't say thank you. I have to say, do well over there. Don't let our welfare factory lose face. The supply and marketing cooperative was located right at the busiest intersection of the town. A 3-story building with a sign hung high above the entrance. Lu Ming-shen worked on the 3rd floor. His window faced the intersection directly, where streams of people were lining up below to buy white sugar. Have a seat. He poured me a cup of tea, placing it into a white porcelain mug printed with the words "Serve the people." The books are in the next room. 5 years, 3 generations of accountants. The first one retired. The second one transferred. The third one. He paused, worked for half a month, then quit, saying it couldn't be calculated. What's the total cash flow over the 5 years? Roughly this much. He held up 3 fingers. 300,000. 3 million. I drew in a sharp breath. In 1987, 3 million yuan was a figure shocking enough to make anyone tremble. Intimidated? I placed the abacus on the table. I need more people. With this volume, I won't be able to finish it by myself in a month. Lu Ming-shen looked at me for a moment and then laughed. Sun Shuqin was right. This girl is indeed sharp. He called 2 temporary staff to assist me. A young man surnamed Sun, and a girl surnamed Chin. The books filled half the room, spanning from 1982 to 1987. Intake slips, output slips, inventory sheets, and daily sales logs were roughly sorted and stuffed into cement paper bags, piling up against a wall of iron cabinets. I told young Sun to pull out the 1985 ledgers first. Lu Ming-shen had mentioned the problem started that year. In 1985, the cooperative's books showed a deficit of nearly 50,000 yuan, and a year-long investigation had failed to find the cause. 50,000 yuan, an amount equivalent to 100 years' salary for an ordinary worker. I opened the ledger for the first quarter of 1985, placing the abacus by my hand. The moment my fingertips touched the boxwood beads, my whole body settled. 10 years of calculating at the welfare factory in my previous life honed not just my skills, but my intuition. The relationships between numbers were just like a net. If just one number was off, the entire net would be full of holes. The first book had no issues. The second book was fine too. By the third book, an intake invoice recorded 300 bags of white sugar, unit price 2.5 yuan, totaling 750 yuan. The attached warehouse intake slip below also recorded 300 bags. However, the daily sales log showed that this batch of white sugar was completely sold out within that very same month. I flipped through the daily sales logs for the previous 2 months. The sales volume of white sugar was stable at around 120 to 150 bags a month. These 300 bags were enough to sell for over 2 months. Yet they were completely cleared out in a single month. I pulled out every single sales receipt related to this batch. Flipping to December 28th, only 130 bags had been sold in total. Where did the remaining 170 bags go? The books recorded them as entirely sold, but the receipts didn't match. I pulled out all receipts related to this batch of sugar, clipped them together with a paperclip, set them aside, and continued flipping. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I had pulled out 11 entries with identical suspicious signs from the stack of 1985 ledgers. It was the same trick. The intake invoices and warehouse logs matched perfectly, proving the goods had indeed entered the warehouse. However, the output records had issues. The books showed them as sold, but the sales receipts were either missing or the amounts didn't match. I copied these 11 entries onto a piece of paper, totaled up 38,000 yuan. It was still short by 12,000. Young Sun stood by, jaw-dropping. Sister Shen, how did you find that? I didn't answer, merely asking. In 1985, who was the purchasing director of the cooperative? Young Sun thought for a moment. It was Liu Dekai. Last year, he was transferred to the District Commerce Bureau. Liu Dekai. I pinned that name in my mind. Right at that moment, the door was pushed open. Liu Mingshen walked in. How is it? I handed him the piece of paper. He glanced over it, his expression instantly changing. This 38,000 has a problem. The intake and warehouse logs match, proving the goods arrived, I said. But the daily sales log is fake. Where the goods actually went, nobody knows. Liu Mingshen gripped the paper tightly. There's still 12,000 that hasn't been found. Yes, we need to dig through the books for 1984 and 1986. The 50,000 deficit from 1985 might not have occurred in just 1 year. Liu Mingshen fell silent for a moment. Shen Siyue, keep this matter quiet for now. I know. I pulled the paper from his hand, folded it, and tucked it into my pocket. Within 3 days, I will finish auditing the remaining books. At that time, I will hand all the documents over to you at once. Liu Mingshen nodded, turned, and walked out. Zhao Qin leaned in closely, lowering her voice. Sister Shen, Liu Dekai is now the deputy director of the District Commerce Bureau. I hear he has great connections with the county leaders. Aren't you scared? I pulled the abacus toward me and flicked a wooden bead. Not scared. Young Sun and Zhao Qin looked at each other, not daring to utter another word. Over the next 3 days, I turned the ledgers from 1984 to 1986 upside down. As a result, I dug up another 26,000. Added to the previous 38,000, the total came to 64,000 yuan. Compared to the 50,000 figure Liu Mingshen gave, it was an extra 14,000. I reviewed it one more time to ensure there were absolutely no mistakes. In 1984, Liu Dekai used the same method to siphon off 21,000. In 1985, it was 38,000. In the first half of 1986, it was 7,000. From July onward, after he was transferred, the book suddenly became clean again. I compiled all the evidence into a dossier, each entry accompanied by a copy of the original receipt. Carefully bound. I was just about to go find Liu Mingshen when someone knocked on the door. A man around 50 stood outside, wearing a grey Zhongzhen suit with a slight paunch. Are you Shen Siyue? I am. The man walked in, his face full of smiles. I am Liu Dekai from the District Commerce Bureau. I heard you're helping the cooperative check their books. You've been working hard. I looked at him, my expression unchanging. Hello, Director Liu. What's with the director? Just call me Old Liu. He pulled up a chair and sat opposite me, his gaze sweeping over the piles of ledgers on the desk. How's it going? Found anything yet? Still investigating. No rush, take your time. He smiled, pulling out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, lighting one and taking a drag. It's hard work for a girl to be an accountant, especially with your leg. His gaze swept over my crutches. Workplace accident? What a pity, still so young. He exhaled a plume of smoke. Ah, right, your mother is Zhang Yilan. My fingers paused slightly. I know old Qian from your neighborhood committee. I heard you made a huge fuss about dividing the family before. I didn't answer. It's normal for young people to be a bit hot-headed. But family is family. Raising you wasn't easy for your mother. Blowing things out of proportion will only ruin your reputation. Especially as a disabled person like you, out making a living. Your reputation is more important than anything else. His tone was casual, as if merely asking about family matters in passing, but every single word was a threat. Director Liu, I pushed the abacus aside. What do you want from me? Liu Dekai looked at me for a while, the smile on his face unwavering. Nothing much, just dropping by to visit on my way past. The cooperative's old books are a tough nut to crack. Take it easy. Don't overwork yourself. He stood up, lightly brushing his trouser leg. Oh. Right. I booked a table at the Stater & Restaurant tonight. I plan to invite you and Director Liu for a simple meal. 7 o'clock, don't be late. At the door, he turned back. Miss Shen, there are some ledger entries. Making them too clear might not be a good thing. Don't you agree? The door closed, and the room descended into silence. I looked at the door, my fingertip lightly flicking a wooden bead on the abacus. Liu Dekai seeking me out personally proved he had begun to fear. And since he feared, it meant I had touched exactly where I shouldn't have. I grabbed the bound dossier, stood up, and went to Liu Mingshen's office. In his room sat a stranger in his 40s, wearing a white shirt, engaged in conversation. Seeing me enter, the man paused. "This is..." Liu Mingshen stood up, "Old Fang. This is Shen Siyue, whom I just mentioned." Then turning to me, "This is Director Fang from the County Disciplinary Committee." Director Fang stood up and extended his hand. I paused for a beat, switched my crutch to my left hand, and used my right hand to shake his. "Director Liu has given me a preliminary report. The documents you found. Let me take a look." I handed him the dossier. Director Fang flipped through it, carefully reading every single page. As he read, his brows furrowed tighter and tighter. 64,000. He voiced out loud. From 1984 to 1986. 3 years. That's enough to line a cooperative deputy director up against the firing squad. Liu Mingshen's face went pale. "Old Fang, Liu Dekai personally came looking for Shen Siyue just this afternoon." Director Fang looked up at me. "What did he say to you?" "He invited me to have dinner at the Staterin restaurant tonight." "Anything else?" I thought for a moment. "He said that making some ledger entries too clear wouldn't be good for anyone." Director Fang let out a laugh. It was a bone-chilling laugh. "Good. He wants to invite you to dinner, right? Go right ahead." Liu Mingshen grew anxious. "Old Fang. I'll go with her." Director Fang stood up, smoothing the creases on his shirt. "Don't worry. I know the Staterin restaurant. I will hide behind the folding screen. Liu Dekai has someone backing him up. A mere deputy director of the District Commerce Bureau doesn't have the capability to swallow 64,000 yuan all by himself. I want him to confess it from his own mouth." 7 o'clock in the evening, Staterin restaurant. Liu Dekai had booked a discreet private room. 4 cold dishes and a bottle of fenju were already set on the table. Seeing me walk in on crutches, he eagerly stood up to pull out a chair. Come in, Miss Shen. Sit down quickly." "Where is Director Liu?" Liu Dekai peeked out the door. Director Liu had unexpected business and couldn't make it. The smile on Liu Dekai's face faded slightly, but instantly widened back up again. No problem, let's just eat casually." He poured me a glass of wine, which I pushed away. "Director Liu, I don't drink alcohol, then have some tea." He poured me a cup of tea. "Miss Shen, what do you think about what I mentioned this afternoon?" "What about?" Liu Dekai set down the teapot, his smile gradually receding. "Miss Shen, let's speak plainly. Those ledger items you are checking are all ancient history from years ago. Back then, the cooperative's management was unregulated. A bit of a mess in the records is perfectly normal." "A mess?" "Yes, it is a mess." I stared at him. "It's not embezzlement, just messy books." I didn't say anything. Liu Dekai pulled a thick envelope from his pocket, placed it on the table, and slid it toward me. 1,000 yuan. Working as an accountant, you probably make only 40 or 50 yuan a month. This is enough for you to go without food or drink for 2 years. The envelope was pushed right in front of me. "Miss Shen, hand those receipts over to me, and consider this matter closed. Whatever job you want in the county later on, I'll arrange it properly for you." I looked at the envelope containing 1,000 yuan. "Director Liu, in March 1985, 300 bags of white sugar were recorded as completely sold, but invoices only account for 130 bags. Where did the remaining 170 bags go?" Liu Dekai's face completely changed. "In July 1985, I continued. By the time I stopped, the smile on his face had entirely vanished. "Shen Siyue, you think a cripple like you can do anything to me?" He sprang up and leaned across the table, his eyes ferocious. "I warned you this afternoon. I know your family affairs like the back of my hand. Your mother Zhang Yilan, your brother Shen Haosheng, And even that man of yours from the textile factory. Zijian Cheng. He had dug up even him. You are a disabled person with no backing. If I want to block your livelihood in this county. Liu Dikai. An authoritative voice rang out from behind the folding screen. Director Fang stepped out. Liu Dikai's face instantly went deathly pale. Fang. Director Fang. Director Fang walked over, picked up the envelope and weighed it in his hand. 1,000 yuan. He glared straight at the briber. Liu Dikai. What else do you have to say? Liu Dikai's lips trembled. Then he suddenly pointed straight at me. She's framing me. Those books were just clerical errors. It wasn't me. 64,000. Director Fang coldly cut him off. 3 years of books, totaling 64,300 yuan. I have looked at the original receipts for every single entry. Do you think the court will believe your clerical error excuse? Liu Dikai went limp and collapsed back into his chair. Director Fang walked to the door and pulled it open. Outside, 2 uniformed police officers were already waiting, ready to take him away. As he was being escorted out, Liu Dikai brushed past me. He lowered his head, his eyes exactly like old May's from days ago, hating me to the bone. He was hauled away. Director Fang turned back to look at me. Shen Siyue, yes. You've got a lot of nerve. Remember to come to the disciplinary committee tomorrow to give your statement. He took 2 steps, then stopped. Oh. That person named Zijian Cheng whom Liu Dikai mentioned. An ex-boyfriend? We broke up. He didn't ask further, turning his back and walking away. I sat alone in the private room, looking at the table of food that had already gone cold. I picked up my chopsticks and grabbed a piece of beef. It was truly delicious. By the time I left the Statoran restaurant, it was completely dark. The county town in 1987. The streetlights cast weak, pale halos spaced far apart. I hobbled silently toward the welfare factory. At the intersection, I saw Lu Mingshen standing in front of the cooperative, smoking a cigarette. Seeing me, he hurriedly put it out. Are you all right? I'm fine. Old Fang already told me. Behind Liu Dikai is a big fish at the district level. I know. Lu Mingshen fell into thought for a while. Shen Siyue. If it were anyone else today, they might have taken that 1,000 yuan. I am not anyone else. He laughed. I know. The moonlight spilled over the intersection, faintly reflecting on the cooperative sign. Director Liu, I've finished auditing the cooperative's books. Tomorrow, after handing over the remaining parts, I will return to the welfare factory. No rush, he replied. Old Fang's side might still need your assistance. You are a key witness in Liu Dikai's case. I nodded, then continued to move forward on my crutches. After walking a few steps, Lu Mingshen suddenly called out from behind. Shen Siyue. I stopped and turned my head. He stood under the dim streetlight, hands in his pockets. That abacus you use, it's high quality. I looked down at the abacus in my hand. Boxwood beads, black frame. The gift Sister Sun gave me. Yes. I turned back and kept walking. The crutches tapped rhythmically on the cement road. Clack clack. Clack clack. The very next day after Liu Dikai was imprisoned, the news spread like wildfire throughout the entire county. People whispered to each other that the crippled accountant at the welfare factory had sent the deputy director of the Commerce Bureau to jail. Just as I was finalizing the handover of the last books at the cooperative, young Sun came running in excitedly. Sister Shen, the rumors about you outside are crazy. What rumors? They say you cleared 5 years of the cooperative's books in just 3 hours. And even caught a massive fish. It was actually 3 days. That the countryside was like that. Rumors got exaggerated threefold after changing hands 3 times. At noon, when I went to the cafeteria to get food, the serving lady even scooped an extra large spoonful of braised pork for me. Eat up, girl. You vented the anger of the common people. That afternoon, Director Fang sent someone to pick me up to give my statement at the disciplinary committee. He pushed a file toward me. From 1984 to 1986, He abused his position to falsify intake volumes and forge sales receipts to embezzle public funds from the cooperative, totaling 64,300 yuan. Of that, he offered 30,000 to a district-level leader. He didn't mention the name, and I didn't ask. Liu Dekai confessed that this person was in charge of the commercial system and held the approval authority for the cooperative. He offered the money to secure his own seat. Director Fang pulled the file back. Shen Siyue, the ledger evidence you provided was the crux of this case. Thank you. Director Fang, can the cooperative's money be recovered? Partially. Liu Dekai has 2 houses and a car under his name, which have all been sealed. That's good. I grabbed my crutches and stood up, preparing to leave. Shen Siyue. Director Fang called out. Regarding that leader, do not investigate further. I paused. Someone will investigate, but not you. Your mission here is considered complete. Go back to work and don't meddle in these affairs anymore. I nodded and walked out of the disciplinary committee's office. The sky suddenly darkened. Black clouds gathering as if a storm was about to break. I hobbled back in silence, Director Fang's words echoing in my head. That leader. The leader Liu Dekai had paid a 30,000 yuan tribute to over 3 years. In my past life, Liu Dekai sat securely in his seat at the Commerce Bureau until retirement, and that leader was later promoted to the city. Their official careers were smooth sailing, and no one ever touched them. In this life, Liu Dekai was in prison, but that leader was still sitting right there. When I reached the welfare factory gate, I saw 2 bicycles parked outside. One belonged to Sister Sun, the other was completely unfamiliar. Pushing the door open, I found a woman in her 40s waiting in Sister Sun's office. She wore a crisply ironed Dacron shirt, her hair neatly bunned without a single strand out of place, holding a notebook in her hand. Siyue, come here, come here. Sister Sun waved me over. Let me introduce you. This is Sister Chen, the director of the garment factory. Factory Director Chen stood up, evaluating me from head to toe. Her gaze rested on my legs for a second, then quickly moved away. Accountant Shen, I've admired you for a long time. She spoke with a slight out-of-province accent, sharp and decisive. Our factory is a collective enterprise, established just last year, specializing in garment manufacturing. The accounting system has always been unstable. I heard about how flawlessly you handled the cooperative's case, so I wanted to ask you to come take a look. I glanced at Sister Sun. Sister Sun winked at me, signaling, here's an opportunity to make money. Factory Director Chen, how many workers does your factory have? Over 50, mostly female workers making shirts and trousers. Since when are the books backlogged? Since we opened in March last year, so over a year. I did some quick mental math. The dispatch fee is 150 yuan per month, paid to the welfare factory. I personally will not charge extra. Factory Director Chen was slightly taken aback. That cheap? I am an employee of the welfare factory. The dispatch fee is the factory's revenue. As for me personally, receiving my salary is enough. Factory Director Chen glanced over at Sister Sun. Sister Sun laughed and waved her hand. Don't look at me, that's just how she is. She sets the prices herself. I couldn't persuade her otherwise. All right. Factory Director Chen slapped her hand on the notebook. When can you come to work? Tomorrow. The next day, I went to the garment factory. The factory was located in the eastern part of the county, a row of interconnected single-story buildings. The courtyard was strung with steel wires, hanging full of finished shirts. The female workers were hard at work at their sewing machines. Seeing me enter on crutches, they all looked up simultaneously, then lowered their heads to continue working. Factory Director Chen led me into the office. The desk was piled mountain-high with ledgers. Everything is here, from when the factory opened last March up to now. I sat down and opened the first book. The garment factory's books were much simpler than the cooperative's. Intake of fabric and accessories, output of finished goods, then selling them to department stores or private businesses. But by the 4th month, I noticed an anomaly. Cotton cloth, a thin fabric used for shirts, was invoiced at 1 yuan 2 mao per meter, which was 2 mao higher than the market price. The factory bought 200 meters every month, and over a year later, the fabric cost alone was inflated by nearly 500 yuan. Factory director Chen, who is in charge of purchasing cotton cloth for the factory. Someone named Zi Jiancheng, who joined at the end of last year. He used to work at the textile factory and knows his fabrics very well. Zi Jiancheng. My finger stopped on the abacus. What is it? Factory director Chen leaned in. Is there a problem with the books? I didn't answer and continued flipping. All the fabrics purchased by Zi Jiancheng had intake prices 10 to 20% higher than the market rate. Over the past year, the factory's purchasing costs have been inflated by nearly 2,000 yuan. Who signs off on the factory's purchasing invoices? I do. Factory director Chen's face had already turned sour. The receipts Zi Jiancheng submits all have the supplier's stamp. I thought the prices were about right, so I signed them. I pulled out all the related intake receipts and arranged them in chronological order. Factory director Chen, these prices aren't about right. The discrepancy is massive. Market price for cotton cloth is 1 yuan. He reported 1 yuan too. Lining fabric market price is 6 mao. He reported 7.5 mao. Buttons, sewing thread, elastic bands. Every item is more expensive than the market price. Over the past year, he's bitten off at least 2,000 yuan in kickbacks from you. Factory director Chen's face completely fell. Right at that moment, the office door opened. A man walked in. He was 28 or 29, of average height, wearing blue work overalls. It was Zi Jiancheng, the man who pushed me onto the train tracks in my past life. Seeing me, he was momentarily stunned because of my legs. His gaze stopped on my crutches for a second, then immediately darted away. He squeezed out an ingratiating smile on his face. Factory director Chen, were you looking for me? Factory director Chen didn't say a word, only glancing over at me. I picked up an intake receipt. Zi Jiancheng, this is the cotton cloth intake invoice you are in charge of. 1 meter for 1 yuan 2. Zi Jiancheng's face changed slightly. That's right, is there a problem? The market price is 1 yuan. His eyes darted around frantically. That's for regular cotton cloth. The fabric I purchase is premium cotton, superior in quality. So naturally, the price has to be higher. Premium cotton? I gripped the armrest, stood up from the chair, and hobbled to the door on my crutches. In the courtyard, a row of brand new shirts was drying. I reached out and felt one. In my past life, I worked at the textile factory for 3 whole years. I could identify what type of fabric it was just by touching it. This is not premium cotton. This is just the cheapest plain weave cotton cloth. The factory gate price is 8.5 mao. The wholesale price is 1 yuan. You quoted 1 yuan too. The smile on Zi Jiancheng's face froze. You? On what basis are you saying this isn't premium cotton? What the hell does a cripple like you know about fabrics? In the courtyard, the sound of sewing machines ceased. All the female workers raised their heads to look in our direction. I hobbled back to the office and pulled a factory output slip from the pile of papers. This is the output slip for that batch of cotton cloth. It clearly states right here. Plain weave cotton cloth, 21 count specification. Premium cotton must be at least 40 count and above. I slammed the output slip onto the desk. Zi Jiancheng, you worked at the textile factory for 5 years. You know the difference between 21 count and 40 count better than I do. Zi Jiancheng's face went dead white. Factory director Chen picked up the output slip, glanced over it, and then looked up at him. How do you explain this? Zi Jiancheng's lips quivered. Then he suddenly pointed his finger at me. She's framing me. She's an outsider. Suddenly jumping in to audit our factory, on what grounds? Factory director Chen, when this batch of fabric came in, you signed off on it yourself. You should know the price is best. Factory director Chen didn't bother arguing. She opened her drawer, took out a phone book, flipped through a few pages rapidly, and picked up the receiver. Hello? Old son? This is Chen from the garment factory. I need to ask you a favor. The plain weave cotton cloth from your factory. What is the wholesale price? The person on the other end said something. Her face grew increasingly dark. All right, thank you. She put down the receiver. Her gaze locked dead onto Zijiancheng. 1 yuan 2? Zijiancheng stumbled a step back. Factory Director Chen. Listen to me explain. 1 yuan 2? She stood up, her voice turning cold. You quoted 1 yuan 2.200 meters every month. Just on this fabric alone. How much of my money have you eaten? Cold sweat poured from Zijiancheng's forehead. He suddenly turned to look at me, his eyes vicious. What grudge do I have against you? I looked straight into his eyes. In my mind, the image from my past life flashed like lightning. The train station. He stood next to that woman. His hand violently shoved my back. The moment I fell onto the tracks, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Factory Director Chen called for the security guards. As Zijiancheng was being dragged away, he struggled in the middle of the courtyard, turning his head to scream at me. Just you wait. You crippled bitch. Just you wait. Just like old Ma, just like Liu Dekai. I sat quietly in the office, gathering the remaining ledgers and arranging them neatly. Factory Director Chen returned and slumped into the chair opposite me. Accountant Chen. Thank you. It's nothing, Director. The books aren't completely checked yet, no rush. She poured me a cup of water. I want to ask you a question. How did you discover that Zijiancheng had a problem? The price. The price? He quoted 1 yuan 2 for cotton cloth. 2 mao more expensive than the market price. If it's more expensive just once, it could be considered an oversight. But if every single type of fabric is more expensive than the market price, then it's intentional embezzlement. Factory Director Chen nodded, seemingly understanding. This Zijiancheng guy usually looks so honest and plain. His skills are solid, and his knowledge of fabrics is definitely abundant. I truly didn't expect. Factory Director Chen. I'll come back tomorrow to work on the remaining books. I grabbed my crutches and prepared to stand up. As I reached the door, Factory Director Chen suddenly called out. Accountant Chen. That guy Zijiancheng. Do you really not know him? I don't know him. I pushed the door open and stepped out into the sun-drenched courtyard. The female workers' gazes toward me were different now, carrying a few traces of reverence. By the time I returned to the welfare factory, the sun was leaning towards the west. Sister Sun hadn't gone home yet and was sitting in her office waiting for me. How was it? The garment factory's purchasing agent who was taking kickbacks got sent to the police station. Sister Sun paused for a beat before bursting into loud laughter. Shen Siyue, do you have a past life vendetta against people who take kickbacks? Everywhere you go, you dig them up. It's because their books aren't clean. Sister Sun laughed for a while before stopping, then pulled a stack of papers from her drawer. 4 factories came looking for you this afternoon. The garment factory, the hardware machinery factory, the brick and tile factory, and also a food factory that makes pastries and candy. They all want you to audit their books. I skimmed through the stack of papers. In my past life, I flicked the abacus in the welfare factory for 10 years, and only Sun Shuqin knew to what extent I could perform. In this life, in less than a month, the entire county knew my name. Will you accept? Sister Sun asked. I accept. 1 factory by 1, 1 by 1. Sister Sun pushed the list towards me. Just as I flipped to the first page, the door was suddenly flung open. My mother stood towering in the doorway. Zhang Yilan wore a new Dacron shirt, her hair combed shiny with oil, holding a bag of apples in her hand. See you. She beamed a sickly sweet smile. Mom came to visit you. She placed the bag of apples on the desk. I heard you're very capable now. Every factory in the county comes to ask you to audit their books. I knew it. I'll see you as a capable child. She naturally pulled up a chair and sat close to me. All right, your brother Heo Sheng is currently seeing someone. The girl's family is demanding a bride price of a whole 3,000 yuan. Look, she reached out to grab my hand. You're the older sister. Help your brother out a bit. I stared intently at her hand. Mom, my money has nothing to do with you anymore. Zhang Galan's smile stiffened. This girl. The agreement signed at the neighborhood committee clearly states 200 yuan every year. I have already given this year's money. If you want to ask for money, wait until next year. Zhang Galan's smile slowly vanished completely. Shen Siyue. She jumped up. Now that you're famous and have money, you won't acknowledge your mother anymore, right? Have you forgotten who gave birth to you? Who cleaned up your feces and urine to raise you this big? Sister Sun abruptly stood up. Zhang Gilan. This is a workplace, not your home. You shut up. Zhang Gilan pointed her finger straight at Sister Sun's face. You are the one who instigated my daughter to move out. What is your scheme? She whipped her head around, glaring at me. Shen Siyue, let me tell you. As long as you live one day as my child, you will be my child for your whole life. There will always be a share of your money that belongs to me. If you don't give it, she looked down at my legs, I will parade around this whole county proclaiming that you, Shen Siyue, are an unfilial child. Your wings have grown hard, so you kick your own mother away. Let's see if anyone still dares to show their face and ask you to audit their books then. The room plunged into a suffocating silence. Sister Sun was so furious her face went pale, and just as she was about to speak up, I stopped her. I looked up at Zhang Gilan. Mum, I calmly spoke. Go ahead and parade around. Zhang Gilan froze. Go ahead and broadcast all over the county that I'm unfilial, that my wings have grown so I abandoned my mother. But after you're done saying it, I grabbed my crutches and stood up. I will still sit here calculating my books. The factories in this county will still come to me one after another. Do you know why? Zhang Gilan choked up, unable to utter a word. Because they don't come to me for my filial piety, but because I know how to calculate. My legs are broken, but my hands are not. You cannot take away my reputation, just as you cannot take away my money. Zhang Gilan's facial muscles twitched violently. She grabbed the bag of apples, spun around, and marched out. The door slammed shut so hard the ceiling beams shook. The room returned to silence. Sister Sun looked at me, slowly letting out a breath. I sat down and opened the hardware machinery factory's ledger. Sister Sun, starting tomorrow for all factories that seek me out to audit their books, the service fee is doubled. The extra amount, the welfare factory keeps half. The other half. I flicked a bead on the abacus. The crisp click-clack echoing clearly. Will be issued as subsidies to the workers in the factory. Sister Sun froze for a few seconds before the corners of her mouth curled up. Deal. She stood up and lightly patted my shoulder. Shen Siyue, you are even more formidable than your mother. Outside, it was completely dark. Autumn 1987. Sycamore leaves fluttered down over the streets of the county town. I sat in the welfare factory office. A stack of hardware machinery factory ledgers in front of me. The sound of the abacus rang out crisply. Another knock came at the door. Is Accountant Shen here? A middle-aged man stood outside holding a bag of pastries. I am old Qian from the brick and tile factory. Miss Shen, I am the director from the coal mine. Miss Shen, I am from the crafting kiln. Just like that. 5 years passed. Spring 1992. The sycamore trees in the county town began to shed flowers again, fluttering in the air. I sat in the office, the windows wide open, tiny pollens floating in and covering my abacus. Xiao Qin picked up a feather duster to brush them off, but I waved my hand. It's fine. The CU accounting office was opened right at the busiest intersection, right next to the old building of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. It was a 2-story building. The first floor was used for business, and the second floor was where I lived. Above the door hung a small wooden sign with black characters on a white background. The characters on the sign were handwritten by Sister Sun. She praised her own handwriting as beautiful. I said it was just okay, so she chased me down half the street with a broom. 5 years ago, I only had an abacus, a passbook, and an employment certificate. Now, this office had 8 employees, including Xiao Qin, the girl who resigned from the cooperative to follow me for the past 3 years. and was now my most capable right-hand woman. On the desk, ledgers from 12 factories were piled as high as mountains. The hardware factory, garment factory, brick and tile factory, food factory, carpentry factory, agricultural machinery station, seed company, construction team, transport team, printing factory, shoe factory, and even a newly opened private flour mill. Almost all the well-known enterprises and production facilities in the county entrusted their books to my management. Sister Shen, Zhao Qin, knocked on the door and entered. Manager Zhang from the flour mill is here, waiting downstairs. Invite him up. Manager Zhang was in his 40s. Last year he resigned from the grain bureau to go out on his own and open a flour mill. He had big guts and a sharp mind. The perfect archetype of the trendiste group in 1992. Taking the plunge into the sea of business as a private entrepreneur. He came upstairs, slumped onto the sofa, and tossed a stack of invoices onto the coffee table. Accountant Shen, last month's books are here. I picked them up and flipped through a few pages. Incoming wheat price, outgoing flour price, electricity, labor, transport fees. Every single item was extremely clear and distinct. Manager Zhang, your profits this month have increased by 20% compared to last month. Manager Zhang broke into a wide, delighted grin. Of course. I just bought a brand new set of milling machines. The flour extraction rate shot right up. However, I pointed to an invoice. The price of wheat for this batch is quite a bit higher than the market price. Next time you go to the grain station to get goods, don't look for Old Sun. Go to the newly opened station in the east of the city. The exact same type of wheat is 3 cents cheaper per catty there. Manager Zhang was stunned for a moment, then slapped his thigh repeatedly. I knew it. That Old Sun is completely unreliable. He stood up, pulled an envelope from his pocket. This month's service fee. 300 yuan. I accepted it. When he reached the door, he turned his head again. Accountant Shen, I heard a rumor that you're planning to open a branch in the city. Yes. When? Next month. Manager Zhang thought deeply for a moment and nodded. Makes sense. With your abilities, it would be a waste to stay confined to this county. He went downstairs. I walked over to the window and looked down at the county intersection. 1992 was vastly different from 5 years ago. Both sides of the street were packed with cassette tape stores, clothing shops, and hardware stores. The music playing from the cassette players had also changed. Forgive me for being wild and uninhibited all my life, loving freedom. Zhao Qin brought a cup of tea in and placed it on the desk. Sister Shen, the district is holding a conference this afternoon and invited you to attend. What conference? The commendation ceremony for outstanding private entrepreneurs in the district. I smiled faintly. Private entrepreneur. 5 years ago, these words sounded strange to the ears. Now, they were a title of honor. Let's go. That afternoon, we went to the District People's Committee auditorium. On the stage were district-level leaders. Below the stage, it was packed with people. Restaurant owners, clothing sellers, all kinds of business households in the county were present. When I hobbled in on my crutches, someone already recognized me. It's Shen Siyue, that crippled accountant. She's incredible now. Every factory in the county seeks her out. I found a seat and sat down. On stage, they began announcing names. Outstanding private entrepreneur. Shen Siyue. The applause surged like a wave. I grabbed my crutches, stood up, and walked toward the stage. The sound of the crutches tapping on the cement floor rang out steadily. Clack, clack. The eyes of the audience focused entirely on me. Some applauded. Some whispered. I stepped up and received the certificate of merit from the leader's hands. Red velvet cover. Glittering gold lettering. When I turned around, I caught sight of a figure in a dark corner of the audience. Zhang Gilan, my mother, wearing a wrinkled shirt. Her hair peppered with grey. Her face heavily etched with wrinkles. She wasn't clapping, only staring at me intently. I calmly averted my gaze and walked down. After the meeting concluded, I had just reached the door when I was stopped. Director Fang stood there. 5 years without seeing him, he had visibly aged. More than half his hair was white, and the corners of his eyes bore the deep marks of time. Shen Siyue, congratulations. Hello, Director Fang. He gave a slight nod and said, Yu Dekai was sentenced to 12 years. And the person behind him went in last year too. The 64,000 you dug up that year was the first loophole. Director Fang flicked his cigarette ash. The disciplinary committee followed that clue and investigated for 5 whole years. You made a great contribution. I watched the bustling stream of people outside the auditorium. Regarding opening your branch in the city, do you need me to put in a good word to help you out? No need. Thank you. All right. He patted my shoulder. Shen Siyue, do well. Director Fang left. I hobbled outside. Right at the main gate, I saw Zhang Gilan still standing frozen there. It had been 5 years since the day she brought that bag of apples to the welfare factory to extort money, but was bluntly rejected by me. She had never sought me out again. Every year on the 23rd day of the 12th lunar month, I would have Xiao Qin take 200 yuan to her house. Not a penny less, not a dime more. Exactly as agreed upon with the neighborhood committee. Every time she accepted it, she never said a word of thanks. See you. She opened her mouth, her voice sounding much older. Something happened to your brother Heo Sheng. I remained silent. He racked up a gambling debt of 20,000 yuan. They're threatening to chop off his hand. Can you? Her eyes remained glued to the bright red certificate in my hand. Can you lend him a hand? The spring breeze swept through the auditorium doors, gently rustling her graying hair. I looked at Zhang Gilan, the woman I had called mother for over 20 years. In my past life, she robbed me clean, not even letting go of my last 1,000 yuan when I was about to close my eyes. In this life, the debt between me and her had been settled. Mum, I have 20,000 yuan. Her eyes instantly lit up. But I won't give it. That light extinguished. You. Shen Hersheng's gambling debt. He borrowed it himself. He must bear it himself. He is your brother. When he kicked over my wheelchair, did he remember I was his sister? Zhang Gilan froze. I hobbled past her on my crutches. Zhang Gilan stood paralyzed in front of the auditorium doors. The spring breeze gently swayed her white hairs. I did not look back. By the time I returned to the office, dusk had fallen. Xiao Qin was organizing ledgers downstairs. Seeing me, she stood up. Sister Shen, Director Liu is here. Liu Mingshen sat on the sofa in the first-floor reception area. 5 years had passed and he had hardly changed, only swapping out for a different pair of glasses, his hair combed as neatly as always. In 1990 he was promoted and transferred to the City Commerce Bureau, currently holding the position of deputy director. In my past life, he was the youngest director in the province. In this life, everything seemed to be moving even one step faster. Director Liu. I shifted my seating posture on the sofa. You'd better still call me Liu Mingshen. Did you come back to the county for a meeting? Yes, and conveniently. He opened his briefcase and took out a stack of documents. Brought this to you. I took it. It was the license approved by the City Bureau of Industry and Commerce for the CU accounting office to open a branch in the city. It's approved, Liu Mingshen said. I also looked at a few potential office locations for you. They're all in the center. You can come up and choose yourself. I held the piece of paper, my fingers tracing over the red seal. Liu Mingshen. Outside the window, the county town of 1992 had turned on its lights. Neon signs at the intersection flashed red and blue. The spring breeze blew past, gently swaying the wooden beads on the abacus. One bead rolled slightly. Click-clack. I picked up the abacus and placed it on my lap. Boxwood. Black frame. The abacus sister son gave me 5 years ago. Liu Mingshen. I heard my own voice ring out. Next month I will go up to the city to look at the offices. He smiled. All right. He stood up and walked to the door. Shen Siyue. Next week I will come pick you up to go to the city together to view the locations. He left, the sound of his footsteps gradually fading on the stairs. I sat quietly by the window, cradling the abacus in my arms. Downstairs, Xiaoqin's voice echoed. Sister Shen, Director Wang from the hardware factory is here. He said he wants to treat you to dinner tonight. Not going, I replied. He said he has some accounts he wants you to look at. Tell him to come back tomorrow. Jie-Qin acknowledged with a yes, her footsteps retreating. The office sank back into quiet. I grabbed my crutches and stood up, walking to the window. The intersection was still bustling. An old man selling candied hawthorns pushed his cart past. Two girls, arms linked, walked into the cassette store. A young boy clumsily pedaled a bicycle, the ding-ding of his bell ringing crisply down the street. Spring 1992. The 5th year since I was reborn. I turned around to head back to my desk. A knock came at the door. Sister Shen, factory director's son is here. I sprang up, grabbed my crutches, and went out to pull the door open. Sun Shuqin stood on the staircase landing, carrying 2 bottles of beer. See you. I heard you're heading up to the city soon. She walked in and set the 2 bottles of beer on the table, the glass clinking dryly against the wood. Tonight, us 2 sisters have to drink to this. I looked at her. 5 years ago, this very person had pulled me out of the mud. Sister Sun, for the branch in the city, be the director for me. Sun Shuqin froze. What about the welfare factory? Let Xiaoqin manage it. You follow me to the city. Her eyes reddened slightly. She popped the caps off the bottles and poured 2 full glasses. Shen Siyue. Yes. Do you know what I thought the first time I met you? What did you think? I thought, this girl's legs are broken, and her heart must be broken along with them. She raised her glass. But now, she lightly clinked her glass against mine. Her eyes sparkling. Your legs couldn't heal, but your heart has mended. Shen Siyue, it's still the same words from back then. From now on, you are Sun Shuqin's person. Whoever dares to bully you will have to step over my dead body. I looked at her, my nose suddenly stinging with sourness. People always say fate is predestined by heaven. But having walked the line between life and death once, I understood. Fate is nothing but an unfinished number. How it is written next lies entirely in one's own hands. Those who once trampled me will eventually be settled by time, debt by debt. As for me, from today onwards, I will only live a life with no regrets towards myself. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. We deeply appreciate your comments, feedback, and thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next stories.